So you're planning a trip to Japan. Well, here's the thing, the best time to visit isn't always cherry blossom season. From when to go, to where to go, and some key tips to make your trip even smoother, we got you covered. First up, when should you travel to Japan in the first place? I think the classic answer to this is spring and autumn. Everybody wants to see the pretty cherry blossoms and the fiery autumn leaves, but here's the catch, famous spots during those seasons get absolutely packed. Let me give you a quick overview. Spring is when it starts to get comfortably warm, and there are lots of flowers, not just cherry blossoms. If you want the cherry trees but want to avoid the massive crowds, I recommend to go up to the Tohoku region in the north where the blossoms bloom later, instead of sticking to big names like Tokyo and Kyoto. Summer is hot. Hot as an oven. I just hate going outside in summer because I turn into this ball of sweat. It's really disgusting. But it's also a season I love because that's when Japan comes alive with festivals and fireworks. One thing to keep in mind apart from the heat is the weather. There's a rainy season, usually around June and early July, where you'll get a lot more wet and overcast days. Autumn is great because it starts to get cooler again, and those colors, just wow. Do watch out though for that transition between summer and autumn though, because that's generally the peak of typhoon season, which means a couple of days of very strong rain and winds. In winter, you actually get quite a lot of clear and sunny days on the Pacific coast side, or if you're into skiing and snowboarding, then there's some great powder snow on the Sea of Japan side. But it is cold, and landscapes and gardens look a bit bare. I guess I just really told you the pros and cons here, but what would I do? If you can go at any time of the year, I'd say aim for April, May, October, and November. Just try to avoid the major holidays of New Year, Golden Week, and Obon. Okay, now that you have a rough idea of when to go, let's talk about how long to stay. There's obviously a lot to see in Japan, and it really depends on your pace of traveling, how many spots you want to squeeze in, and if you're one of those lucky people with 3 months off work. Here's a quick sliding scale to give you an idea. 1 week, stick to Tokyo or Kyoto, maybe fit in a quick side trip if you're speedy. 2 weeks, enough time to add a couple more cities and a visit to the countryside. 1 to 2 months, that's enough time to see every major region, from snowy Hokkaido in the north to subtropical Okinawa in the south. And 3 months? For many visitors, that's the maximum length of a short-term stay. That's plenty of time to slow down and dive deep into Japan's culture, nature, and daily life. But I should point out that visa rules do vary depending on the country you're from, so just in case, make sure to check the official government website. We've linked it in the description below. From talking with many people who visited over the years, a lot of first-timers told me they wish they had 2 weeks instead of 1. That's usually the perfect length if you want to see all the major spots without having to rush all the time. Okay, maybe give that a bit of thought later because we're getting to the trip itself. Where are you going to land? It probably feels like a no-brainer, right? I'm landing at Tokyo International Airport. But Tokyo has 2. Haneda and Narita. To be honest, it doesn't matter which one you choose because it mostly depends on your airline. That said, Haneda is a lot closer to central Tokyo than Narita. The only issue is, unlike at Narita, where you can hop on a reserved seat train like the Narita Express or Skyliner, all trains from Haneda are regular commuter lines. So you'll likely be squeezing in with the rush hour crowd if you arrive in the morning or in the evening. Another airport option is to skip Tokyo and go straight to Osaka, which has Japan's 3rd major international airport. Some regional airports like Fukuoka, Sapporo, Nagoya, and Naha also have international flights, mainly from other Asian cities. I always try to go for Haneda myself because it's a lot closer to central Tokyo and that means a lot less time on trains when I'm dying from jet lag. And here's something to consider. Fly into Tokyo but head home from Osaka. It's what's called an open jaw flight. It basically saves you the trip back to where you started. With that sorted, here comes the fun part. Where should you actually go? Most people start with what's called the Golden Route. Tokyo, Mount Fuji, Kyoto, Osaka, and Hiroshima. It's popular for a reason. It's the easiest way to see Japan's most iconic spots. The downside, it's very urban and it's very busy. If this is your first trip, that route is solid, but if you were to step off the beaten path, I think that would make for a lot more memorable trip. Even in Kyoto, if you were to step away from the top 10 attractions, you can find some peaceful gardens and temples. If you have time, definitely try to make space for a side trip or two to the countryside, hot spring towns, or less traveled regions like Kyushu, Shikoku, or Tohoku. If you're sticking to the main train lines, instead of doing the straight route from Tokyo to Kyoto via the Tokaido Shinkansen, you could instead do it via the Hokuriku Shinkansen. That way you can make stops along the way in less urban areas and experience a different side of Japan. And if you're looking for more ideas, we've got a website that has tons of pages on popular spots, etiquette tips, itineraries. We've been to each of these spots, we've researched them, and we keep them regularly updated. I think we really do our best to show Japan as it really is and not just exaggerate it for clicks. If it can help you for your trip, we've put the link in the description below. go check it out. And if you want advice that's more tailored to your trip, we actually have a community forum. It looks really old school, I know, but it's packed with really valuable insights from passionate travelers. Alright, you've got some idea of where you want to go, now let's talk about how to get there. For long distances like up to Hokkaido, down to Kyushu, Shikoku, flying is definitely the way to go. Domestic flights here are quick, easy, and honestly pretty cheap. And compared to a lot of other countries, the security lines at the airports are surprisingly fast. I sometimes spend more time looking for a bento at the airport than going through security. If you're on a budget though, there's also highway buses that run between major cities. And if you take an overnight one, you can save on a night's accommodation. The challenge though is you have to sleep on a moving bus. Rental cars, they're perfect if you're heading into the countryside, especially in areas with limited public transport or if you're carrying a ton of luggage. But in the big cities, honestly just forget it. Between the parking, traffic, narrow roads, it's just totally not worth it. Just stick to trains, they're faster and much more relaxing. And speaking of trains, they're actually the easiest way to get around Japan. They're clean, punctual to the minute, well, most of the time, and run pretty much everywhere. When it comes to trains, there are a few ways you'll get through the gates. The most universal option is still regular paper tickets. They work everywhere, especially once you get outside the big cities. You've got IC cards, they're tap and go, super convenient, and even work for shopping. Just don't expect them to work everywhere in rural areas. On some urban and suburban lines, you can now even tap a credit card at the gate. This is still rolling out, but you'll see it more and more, especially around big cities. You might also notice gates with QR code readers. QR code tickets are limited for now, but the idea is they'll eventually replace the regular paper tickets. And then there are rail passes. There are lots of them, and whether they're worth it really depends on your trip. This is why we built a calculator to help you decide, link in the description. On some train lines, you can also reserve seats online, skip the ticket machines, and enter with a QR code or linked IC card. It's great, but just remember, it's only available on certain routes for now. By the way, there is no need to stress over which IC card to get. Suica, Ikoka, Passmo, they all work pretty much the same in all major cities. Personally, I chose Suica because that penguin looks super cute. Okay, but it's time to talk about something every traveler underestimates: luggage. Okay, and let me tell you, Japan was not made for big suitcases. You'll see people walking around with their huge suitcases, blocking the train platforms, or going up those endless staircases. It's not pretty. So do yourself and the people around you a favor, travel light. And if that's not an option, Japan's delivery services are actually amazing. You can send your big suitcase from, say, your hotel in Tokyo straight to your next hotel in Kyoto, and travel in between with just a backpack with an overnight stay in Hakone. It usually costs around 2,000 yen per bag, and honestly, it's totally worth it for the freedom. You can send bags between hotels, convenience stores, airports, and even some major train stations. It's honestly one of those small Japanese conveniences where you think, why hasn't the rest of the world caught up yet? Oh, and one more important rule, don't bring large suitcases on city buses. You're actually not supposed to. If you've got big bags, just use a delivery service or hop in a taxi. So with your luggage sorted, where should you stay? Japan has so many options for every budget. Beyond the usual hotels, you can spice up your trip with something uniquely Japanese, like a ryokan. They're traditional inns. Think tatami rooms, futon beds, big, relaxing hot baths, and incredible local meals. It's the perfect way to experience traditional Japanese lifestyle and hospitality. Another option is staying at a temple lodging. Yes, you can actually stay at a real working temple. You'll get to immerse yourself in the simple and austere lifestyle of Buddhist monks, joining morning prayers or even meditation. On the other side of the spectrum, you've got capsule hotels. They're small, very small, but can be surprisingly comfy and perfect for budget travelers. Some of the more modern ones actually feel more like mini rooms. And remember those overnight buses? Like we talked about before, they're not just transportation, they can double as accommodation too. It's not luxury, but if you can sleep on a bus, it's an efficient way to move between cities. Alright, we're almost done with our list of tips, but there's still a few essentials we need to talk about, like money. Japan has a bit of a reputation as a cash-only country, and while that used to be true, things have changed a lot in the last few years. These days, credit cards are accepted in most places like shops, restaurants, even at a lot of vending machines. And in many cases, you can use your trusty IC card. Cash-only spots are slowly becoming the exception, not the rule. That said, you'll still run into some spots that only take cash, like temples and smaller restaurants that use vending machine meal tickets. And if you need to withdraw yen, don't panic. Not all ATMs here take foreign cards, but the one at 7-Eleven and Japan post offices always do. Those are your best friends when you need cash. I still like to keep about 10,000 yen in my wallet. There's nothing worse than lining up at a popular restaurant only to find out that they only take cash. Alright, now let's talk internet. Let's be real, you don't want to be spending your trip looking for Wi-Fi, reloading Google Maps, so here are a few tips so you can stay connected in Japan without losing your sanity. Free Wi-Fi does exist at hotels, airports, train stations, and some cafes, but it often comes with annoying logins or time limits. So most travelers go for one of these three options. SIM cards or eSIM plans. They're easy to set up and usually cheap, but depending on your provider, you may get some spotty coverage, especially in the countryside. Portable Wi-Fi. They're perfect if you want to connect multiple devices at once, but just like with SIM cards, coverage can be spotty in some areas. Data roaming, probably the most convenient, but also the priciest depending on your carrier. If you're traveling as a couple or a group, it's usually cheaper to get a single pocket Wi-Fi rather than everybody getting their own SIM cards. And while we're talking about staying connected, here are 3 apps we think every traveler should have. Google Maps, still the best for directions and walking routes. Google Translate, super handy for menus and signs, especially with the camera function. Japan Transit Planner, great for train lines and routes, and a little bit more precise than Google Maps when it comes to look up connections and fares. And something super important we haven't touched upon, manners. Okay, now don't worry, nobody expects you to be the master of Japanese etiquette the minute you step off the plane. But here are a few basic rules that will help you blend in and avoid any awkward situations. First, keep your voice down, especially on public transport. Trains and buses in Japan are quiet. You'll notice everyone is reading, napping, or scrolling in silence. Chatting loudly may seem harmless, but it's actually one of the top 3 things that annoy locals the most. Next, don't block the flow of people with yourself or your luggage. And finally, trash. One thing that does surprise a lot of travelers is the absence of bins everywhere. So be ready to carry your garbage with you until you get back to your hotel or you find a rare one. I used to walk around with an empty can of coffee in my pocket, some garbage in the other all the time just because I could not find a bin anywhere. But nowadays I use a small bag to put the garbage in, and honestly it's made life a lot easier. And if you ever feel unsure about what's polite, what's impolite, just look around you and do as the locals do. That's the best way to get it right. But the main tip I want to give you is just enjoy your trip to Japan. Don't stress about wanting to see everything, even the small moments can be amazing. Thanks for watching. But if you're still stuck on the question of when to visit, check out this video where we break down each month of the year so you can find the perfect timing for your trip.